I'm Phil Dawson and I'm a Senior Lecturer in the Office of the Vice Provost Learning and Teaching. I've applied for 7 grants with the OLT and ALTC, so it's a mixed bag. My big success was a $220,000 innovation and development project exploring how academics make decisions about assessment. And that was a great success. I loved that project. But I also applied for a seed grant on learning analytics, which was not successful. I applied for a seed grant as a partner with someone else at Monash on student motivation, unsuccessful. I applied for a seed grant as a partner with someone at Monash on online learning, which was successful. I applied for a big grant as a small partner with another university on student leadership, which was successful. And I applied for a seed grant about online learning in a partnership with another uni, unsuccessful. I also applied for a big grant, a strategic priority project with the ALTC a while back, and it was on widening participation. I loved that project, but it was unsuccessful. So that's 1, 2, 3 successes out of 7. That's a little bit better than the national average success rate, which sits around 20%. But it's also, I guess, a bit disheartening to get those 4 rejects. You know, I really liked those projects and they didn't get up. It's been a process of learning how to deal with failure, rejection, and seeing that as a productive thing. It's been about picking which ones to rewrite and resubmit and work on, and which ones are just sort of not a good project in the first place, and I should stop trying to push away at something that's not going to get up. It's been a good developmental process for me as a researcher, just in dealing with feedback from a funding body, and that's useful across all the work that I do. So 3 out of 7, I'm okay with that. I've thought about the lead time that it takes to get one of these grants going. For me, it's probably about 3 months. I went back and looked at the projects that I've done in the past, and there's not really a clear pattern. Some of them I worked strenuously away on for longer that didn't get up. None of them that got up would have been quicker than 3 months, except for one of those, which was a last-minute partnership. In those 3 months, a lot of it is sort of developing this idea in conjunction with the partners and potential partners and shopping it around and try to build up that network. It's been really great to have some good people nearby me that I can bounce the ideas off in the initial stage. We then talk about who might be some good partners to go out and talk to. But before we talk to them, we've got to have a pretty good sense of what we want the project to be. So a pretty good write-up. That varies from sort of a 1-page pitch to maybe the whole grant. And we sort of spread out from there. My big tip on using those 3 months is not setting out some sort of open call for collaborators, because you'll get people you don't end up wanting to work with or who don't pan out in the end. Go with people that you trust and then people that they trust, and build that sort of network of trust from there. So that's what the sort of 3-month lead time looks like. Of course, there's a lot of grant writing in there and a lot of bouncing back and forth between myself and the team and promoting excellence. There's a big difference between the sort of projects that the OLT will fund and then the sorts of projects that other funding bodies will fund, like the ARC or an HMRC. That's probably not unique to the OLT. Every funding body exists for a reason and they want to get certain things from you. The sense I get is that the OLT doesn't want to fund pure research projects. If you want to do some really great research, which you shouldn't just do some practice project that you're going to get no research outcomes from. If you want to do some research in an OLT, you've got to make it look like it's absolutely necessary for the practical outcomes of the project. There's a few tricks that I use in there. One of those tricks is complex methodology words. Don't use them. There's no need for them in the project proposal. You can use some that have sort of those double meanings. So a case study has both a sort of popular meaning and also a strict research methodology meaning. some theory words have really good practical popular meanings, but they also mean important things to you as a researcher. But anything that doesn't sort of meet both of those needs, junk it. You can have two documents going. You can have the OLT proposal and the super secret research plans that you have amongst the team that are necessary to do that, but that are too complicated to put into the OLT grant. When applying for an OLT grant for the first time, it's important to work with other people who have done this before. Now, for me, that's involved getting other people onto the team who have a lot of experience applying for and running these OLT grants. That doesn't mean you have to get the superstar professor and get them to lead the grant for you. You could lead an OLT grant as a very early career researcher if you've got the sort of practical track record necessary to do the work and a fantastic idea. You can go out and find those really good, experienced senior OLT researchers and bring them onto the team. A great research idea or a great practical project idea will attract great people to it. So get those people on your project, work with them. In getting those people though, I've found it works best to shield them from the minutiae and the day-to-day boring bits of the project and involve them on the bits where their expertise really matters. When involving senior researchers in an OLT project, there's a choice to make about having them on the project reference group, having them on the project team, and even having them as the external evaluator. And there's great roles for different people there. For me, I actually quite like having the senior researchers on the project team. I think that you need to have something in there for them. And having them on the project team means they get an allocation of funds and they get properly compensated for their time. There's also a clearer role for them in any practical or research outputs that come from the project. So I prefer to have them on the project team. I know some people like to have the doers on the project team and then a reference group of experts. I struggle to get the best out of OLT reference groups, if I'm completely honest. I struggle to keep them involved in the day-to-day. But also I don't know if I'd want to get the superstar professor in the field involved in the day-to-day of the project as part of a reference group without compensating them. So I'm not sure what the best role for those people is. I know for me, it's on the project team. So as far as actually doing the project goes, the biggest advice I can give people is get started immediately. Don't let there be a little bit of lag time as you sort of set things up and meander and whatever, because 3 months from the start of the project is actually 3 months from the end of the project that you don't have when you're flat out and you're struggling to get things done. As far as project impact goes, getting stuff out there, I think the important thing is the same there. Get started immediately, start building those networks, start having preliminary chats with people, see if you can hook into existing networks, conferences. The Herzer conference is an excellent place. In one of those projects, as soon as we got the project approval, we turned the project proposal into a paper in a sort of scholarship of learning and teaching journal. We turned the project proposal into a poster at the Herzer conference. And those two avenues gave us just a really great way to get feedback from everyman sort of conference goer, reviewer types. We'd had feedback from the OLT, they loved it, they didn't want to change it. But we didn't have feedback from the day-to-day practitioner. At the Herzer conference with the poster, I talked with Associate Deans Education. I talked with Deputy Vice Chancellors. I talked with a bunch of people who ended up being key people for the dissemination of the project. I think as well, getting some sort of web presence up early on is really handy. So for us, that was just buying the domain name, chucking a WordPress blog up on it with contact details for the team and a form people could fill in to keep up to date with the project. That gave us this slow trickle of people who we could then reach out to later.